Hi, Andy. Thank you for your email reply to Paresh. Let me give you a brief overview of how we get to some of the results and some of the misconceptions which can happen as well. We start off with our approved list, which is going through 10,000 equities and 6,000 exchange traded funds. And the reason we start with such a large number is we need to filter this down. This includes everything that can go in your SIPP or ISA, so European stocks, UK ones, and US ones. But obviously, to go through a list of 10,000, you'd need some parameters of what's important in terms of what's likely to move stock prices and what weight those things should have. We know undervalued companies tend to perform better than overvalued ones because of the academic research. And we've relied on the academic research, which I've published in my Financial Times columns and in my books, but from individuals such as Richard Thaler, Daniel Kahneman, Eugene Fehmer. Croakey comes from Goldman Sachs Wealth Management, and we know companies in the top quartile by cash return on capital invested tend to generate 30% per annum as portfolios of stocks than those which are not in the top quartile. Not every stock in the portfolio, not every year. 2008, none of them would have done that. But because it's not a magic bullet or a guarantee, we just simply want to tick that box, make sure that we've got companies in that. It's not to say companies outside of that won't do well. For instance, none of these meet our criteria. It doesn't mean that they might not go on to do very well. It's just that they just don't meet our criteria. And we only need to get all the bathwater out of the bath, as it were. And if that means getting rid of some babies, that's fine. As long as what's in the bathtub is as many babies as possible. Now, not all the stocks that we might end up with will all go up in a given year. Because if they were to, and we could be that accurate, then we'd be more accurate than Warren Buffett. And we would tell you just buy one stock. Because obviously we're so accurate, we can just tell you just buy the stock and you'll go up. Why have a portfolio? Why bother? And we tell you which one's going to be the biggest mover. The reason people have portfolios, including Warren Buffett, is because there's a level of detail beyond which there's no level of prediction because Donald Trump might do a tweet. So contrary to what people think, sometimes they think it's because, Alpesh must have lots of degrees and a time machine and a crystal ball. He can see into the future and knows what's going to happen. No, we're picking resilient companies which should do well. And if there's a tailwind, they should do well sooner. And if there's a headwind, it might take longer. Just like house prices in the 1980s, there's a recession, it would take 5 years for house prices to double. If there isn't, it would take 3 years. Similarly with the stocks. What makes me so sure that undervalued companies do better than overvalued ones and growing ones tend to do better than ones which aren't growing? And what about stories and narratives? There's a story in the news about AI, or what about a story about, I don't know, Trump tariffs and so on? How do we deal with narratives, stories, things which are very difficult to model and things on which there isn't data? Well, what we're not doing is we're not gambling around news. We're not here to go to Ladbrokes and say, I think the earnings are going to be good for this. We're not doing the stuff that the journalists use for clickbait. In the same way Warren Buffett says, if you want to go and watch CNBC all day, that's great, but that's going to get you trading. It's not what we're doing. It's not to say money can't be made doing that. It's just not what we do, because that's not suitable for my pension, my son's junior ISA. There are ways of trading, and I come from a trading hedge fund background. It's not what would be suitable for a pension, nor would it be easy enough to do for a large group of people. That's why we don't do that. So we want companies which will be resilient to news, because we're not going to look at it, and yet we know in the short term noise can impact the markets. We better find companies which are resilient to it. It's just logical. So yes, undervalued, growing, and the research, not just from the individuals I mentioned, but other academic research, which I, as I say, published in my books, my FT columns, is all in the online materials when you join the program, were you so inclined to look into it. Momentum comes from the hedge fund industry. Trends tend to persist, but they're not guaranteed to. Sortino comes also from the hedge fund industry. It's the average return of a security versus the downside volatility of it missing that return and how quickly it rebounds. Now, to state the obvious, the past is not a guarantee of the future, but it tends to be a guide, as the only guide we've got. What we're essentially looking at, therefore, is the P&L, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement. That's what that shows you on screen, and the statistical movements of those companies to see how they've actually performed, not just how they said they would in their P&L, their balance sheet, cash, which is all talk, but actually how have they performed? How do they react to market circumstances. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, what about this country? What about that country? And we'll take a bottom-up approach. So we're looking at companies. We don't care the passport of the company. In the same way, we're going to be racist with our stock picks and only pick companies from Britain. No, we don't care where they are in the world. If they make money and they can move my SIP and ISA, and 10,000 equities to choose from is good enough. So equally, we're not going to say, well, let's just pick this sector or that. Correlation, which you want less of if you want diversification, tends to increase when markets are falling. In other words, when markets are falling, Walmart and Costco and Microsoft all fall. Doesn't matter that they're in different sectors. So there's a lot of unlearning that has to come out of people. The reason we do better than fund managers are the reasons why Eugene Fama, the Nobel Prize winner, put that together, which is we're not picking from a restricted gene pool, which fund managers do. We can go into cash if we need to in 2022, which was done on a very simple basis, which is what we call the daddy bear, where we look at simple average prices, but you don't have to go into cash. All our portfolios are tested on the basis that you didn't. Let's go all the way backwards. So you start off with this. Think of this in Bake Off ingredients and recipe card. The reason we give this to all the students is not for them to do lots of homework themselves. We filter it for them. It's so that they've got the transparency of the data. If you don't have transparency, you don't have empowerment. If you don't have empowerment, then why are you doing any of this? You don't have peace of mind. We start off with all of that, and then we'll take it into a monthly PowerPoint, which I put together for them. Now, imagine you're now chairman of your family office, your investment company. I come along, I'm from Goldman Sachs or McKinsey, and I present you with a nice little PowerPoint based upon your risk analysis. So once students sign up, the first thing we do is work out what their risk appetite is, the drawdowns that they can tolerate. And I say to you, Mr. Chairman, I think these portfolios look good. These are some cakes we've baked with our raw ingredients. And you say, that's all well and good, but where's the data? And I say, well, here's the data. And you go, well, that's all well and good, but what does it all mean? Explain it to you. But the reason we give it to you yourself as well, you never have to rely and trust upon, oh, well, Alpesh is clever. I'm sure he'll sort of see me right. Let's move on to the modern portfolios, because what sometimes happens is people mistake this as a stock picking. So he's going to tell me, Donald Trump's called him on the phone and told him, buy this stock, buy that. No, we create portfolios. Now, you might create them yourself using the raw ingredients of the Excel spreadsheets and then run them past me. I then check them. This is why you've got me for life. Because 6 months from now, somebody else is president, and you might say, actually, Alpesh, I'd quite like a call. I want peace of mind. So we found that the only way to give you peace of mind is to give access to me forever. The only way to avoid the conflict of interest that's implied in the subscription or me getting a percentage of your assets, where I then think, oh God, each month I better keep him sweet. Or let's just keep throwing him more data and showing how clever we are, not telling him we should go into cash now because the markets don't look good. And that happens rarely. It'll be once in 3-4 years that you ever, I ever hold cash. It was to have a one-off fee. Don't get me wrong, I would love it if I didn't have to speak to anybody and I got subscriptions coming in all the time. I want to create a different type of asset management company. I have a private equity and a hedge fund side, which has institutional money. That's just the traditional way of doing it. What I want to do is do something on the retail side where the retail client doesn't need IFAs and fund managers who are renowned for underperformance for the reasons I've mentioned. They pick from a narrow gene pool because they have so much money to manage that they necessarily pick from a narrow gene pool and then go for the lowest volatility so they don't get complaints and you get no growth. Because an opportunity cost is something far harder to complain about than a real drop, i.e. high volatility. So what we do is we say, well, let's handhold people in the way a private bank does. If you give Goldman Sachs 50 million, they'll do this for you, and say, right, this is your appetite. Do you understand it? Do your children understand it? Because they're going to inherit it, and we do that as well. So let me then say, well, let's say you said, well, that's all well and good, and there's a lot of stuff here. Let's say we then said to you, well, actually, you might say, I don't just want a model portfolio. I'd actually quite like some picks now and again, please. I would quite like some names, which just extra bit of fun. So we have that. What we do is for those clients who want that, which is a minority, about 10% of clients, we look at hedge funds which are generating 40% per annum and seeing what their new purchases are and if they meet our filters. And if they do, I send that list to the clients and do a video and say, look, here's some more. And 10% of my clients want that additional bit of almost tip sheet newsletter side of things, but 90% don't. They just want what we discovered was the portfolio made for them. Now, let's be absolutely clear. The portfolio is not, you're not forced to buy it. What it is it's a cake we've made on Blue Peter. Here's one we made earlier. You might look at it, just gets you started. And you say, well, can you remove the icing and add a bit more sugar? So you might say, can you remove Tesla and add a bit of Walmart or whatever? And then we run the numbers again. We say, yeah, actually that fits. And then let me show you what happens. I'll show you one that my wife and son are in. And let's look at the broad numbers and make sure we don't misunderstand, because there's a lot of misunderstanding based on what nonsense journalists talk about. First of all, the past is no guarantee of the future. Secondly, we didn't select a portfolio based on how it did historically. We didn't know how it did historically, because obviously it'd be stupid to say, hey, which are the 20 best stocks in the last 10 years? Oh, let's buy these. That'd be irrational. What we did is we looked at the filtered list and said value, growth, income, cash flow, Sortino. Let's look through this. This looks good. Now let's look at how it did out of interest historically. Now, people always fixate on this, 31.6. I wish it could be guaranteed. If it could be guaranteed, I will become the richest man in the world very soon. Sadly, these things can't be guaranteed. I say to students, I say, what if instead of 31.6, whatever it is, this is 2017, what if it did half of that? Well, that would mean you double your money in 5 years. There's no guarantee, but at least that's better than nothing at all. So we leave a good buffer space. But actually, far more important, this number, which people don't want to look at, and so I force my students to look at it, drawdowns. What the hell does drawdowns mean? So what we do is we break down not just month by or year by year, as I think you saw in one of the other forms. What we do for you, so it would be an Andy model portfolio based on your answers on your risk appetite, unless you wanted to create your own one, in which case we'll also put these numbers. We say month by month, every single stock in there, and we take you through it. We say, look in these months. Forget the 31.6, but there were months when every single stock in the portfolio fell, and some of them double digits. And you go, oh, that's a bit scary. And there are months when month after month after month after month, a stock fell. My point being this, we have to make sure you understand, oh, there's underwater periods, there's drawdown. Underwater means how long before you came back to where you were, which is another way of saying people mess things up when they get bored, right? No returns for 6 months, 11 months, get bored. Drawdown is where you get panicked. And we're trying to avoid both. The reason we give you all this extra data, and I want you to understand that, is because I don't want people to think, well, obviously going to give me some names. I've got to buy those names and then I'll be fine. No, because you might still mess it up out of panic and boredom and exit early. So we go beyond that, obviously. What we also do is make sure you're all trained up. It's not like anything you've seen before. This is not, do not think, oh, this is like tip sheet. This is fund management 101. This is like working at my hedge fund. What do I do with my portfolios? We give them a little tree. Now, they've always got access to me, but the reason I give these is so they get a good night's sleep. Vast majority of students want to do this. They just want to do the model portfolios. Some want to, I'd say 10% want to do filtered list. Some of the model portfolio people also want to do these other ones that we add for them. And I do regular market updates, but there are those who say, look, I want the least amount of information, in which case they pick a model portfolio and they speak to me once a year, if that. Because they can speak to me as often or little as they want. Others will say every single, I do a daily market update. They say, I want to listen to your daily market update. They don't need to. It's like if I plant a tree and I give you a daily update on how that tree is doing, you might, why the hell do you give me a daily update? I didn't need to trees doing every day. But some like it, so I do it for them. And I love it anyway, and this is what I do. You can simplify everything, and that's really what this is about. It's to simplify all of that, the most important stuff. There's online education. Most don't do it. Most will go to this, pick a model, have a call with me, and then they go, oh, actually, when you say I've got unlimited access to, I don't actually need it. We're actually going to pick a portfolio, and then we're going to decide whether, if we're risk loving, you buy all of it today, or if you're more risk averse, you edge in slowly. And then I just watch it, Alpesh. Yeah. And I follow the flow chart. Yeah. What if Trump does tariffs? Well, I do my regular. I just wanted to explain that to you so you understand. If I were to send you an Excel of each single month of each one of those, as I sort of showed you there, it's not going to make any difference because it's not the one you're going to be picking anyway. There's a whole bunch of models for different clients. So some are doing rather well at the 40%, others just beating the S&P, for instance, at say 15% year to date. It just depends on what kind of drawdown risk appetite they had. And how a typical client does will depend upon the portfolio they select. They choose the stocks. We run the numbers to make sure that it looks good and there's no red flags, how they will do. If they suddenly decide they want to panic sell, which can happen, but let's say they did, then they won't even do the same as the model because they're not following the model. That happens. But they're really more than welcome to speak to clients. There's a whole website, alpeshpatelreviews.com as well. What normally, and we get together. So I do 4 events a year in Parliament where the Great Investment Program clients, the ones that can get to London, because we've got ones in America and Australia and all the rest of it, come along and we do a dinner afterwards. And then we do other events in between. So I did a breakfast at Claridge's a while back. These are all complimentary. They're all free. And I've got a dinner at Lincoln's Inn, which is my old inn, coming up. And again, all complimentary. So they can meet each other as well. So if you're near London, there's an additional benefit. But of course, if you're in Australia, you might think, well, bloody hell, I don't get the same benefits as the ones in London. I hope that explains it. And probably you could do a better job always of explaining things and communicating them better and better and better. But the main thing for me is to make clear this is nothing you've ever seen before. This might help as well, by the way. Thank you. I hope that helps. I don't want you to get fixated on historic models. What's going to matter more is how are yours going to perform. But here's the other thing. It is not, oh, Alpesh is clever. He has picked these. Let's see what he picked in the past. How has he done in the future? I haven't picked them. The computers pick them. Value, growth, income, cash flow, Sortino. If you suddenly think, well, no, your model can't, the way you're doing things can't possibly work because overvalued companies are the way to go. And companies which don't grow are the way to go. And companies which don't have any cash flow are the way to go. You're silly. Our ingredients are very rational. You don't have to take my word for it. You just have to look at them and say, well, actually, that actually makes sense. And see why he's done that. What we're not doing is saying, hey, psst, until I've got this deal with NVIDIA. Here, yeah, I did Bloomberg TV. I was a presenter there whilst I was doing all my investing and 3 years, and I'd have my show, and I know narrative. And I know narrative has nothing to do with anything other than noise on a day-to-day basis. And by the way, if everything I've said sounds familiar, it's because independent of me wanting to replicate what he does, it's everything that Warren Buffett does. I didn't copy him. He didn't copy me. It is, when you then think about it, that makes sense. So that's where we are. That's where we are. And is there a leap of faith? No, because what should happen is you should say, well, wait a minute. I've got all the data. I've got the reasoning why value, growth, income, cash flow, Sortino. That makes sense. He's even revealed why, what the research reports behind that are, and shown me how those have performed historically. Doesn't mean they'll do it again, of course. How does he treat clients and customers? Well, let's speak to some of those. Then that's it. But I fully appreciate it's not for everyone. Sadly, I wish it was, because I think it's silver bullet. But then again, Apple think their phone should be for everybody, and it's the silver bullet as well. So when you think you've got something amazing, you would think it's the silver bullet. But my goal is to put St. James's Place out of business, because I think IFAs and fund managers, and I've written about it in my books, and there's ample research to show that they consistently underperform because of the way they're institutionally structured. They can't hold cash in negative years because they're not allowed. They pick from a narrow gene pool, so statistically, it's improbable they will succeed over a prolonged period of time. I've gone on for a long time, but I'm passionate about this, and if I feel that I've not explained something, then I do like to share it. Thank you.